1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4.
John Stanley was a politician. He eventually got in a political debate with Richard Speight. It ended up in a duel. John Stanley wounded Speight. Speight died of wound, and because dueling was illegal, Stanley had to go into hiding until Governor Williams granted him a pardon. It was the first gubernatorial pardon ever granted in North Carolina. Well, John Stanley lived in that house until his death, and eventually the house was sold. Now, after the Civil War, the house was sold to the Bryan family. Interestingly enough, the Bryans were direct descendants of Richard Dobbs. They think it was the ghost of John Stanley who had returned. Now, they say the Bryans moved in the house. Every night, they would wake by the sounds of loud it sounded like the chandeliers had fallen. They'd run downstairs and check, and there wasn't a thing out of place. They think it was the ghost of John Stanley, who had returned furious. They had sold his house to a Speight descendant.
But I remember a few things that you might be interested in.
It was 1862, and President Lincoln turned attention to eastern North Carolina. Union General Ambrose Burnside brought his troops upriver to forts outside of New Bern.
Last night, Federals landed with artillery and cavalry near our batteries in New Bern and began skirmishing with our infantry.
Many of our men were killed, wounded, and taken prisoner. Everything was in such a state of confusion that we were unable to come up with any definite estimates.
Unfortunately, the defending rebels were outnumbered 3-1.
The Confederate forces, once we had defeated them, retreated through the city of New Bern, burning the bridges after them.
At 10 o'clock this morning, all the militia who had escaped over the bridge arrived in New Bern.
On the next day when we arrived, the city was in total chaos. And I'm proud to say our General Burnside, called a truce.
New Bern was able to prosper through this occupation, while many other southern towns suffered due to shortages and inflation.
I can tell you we are all looking forward to leaving this God-forsaken country and getting back to New England.
Caleb Braddon was attending the University of Maryland School of Medicine when his father's business failed. For almost a year afterward, Caleb worked as a teacher until he decided to open a pharmacy in New Bern, North Carolina, on the corner of Pollock and Middle Street. Back then, pharmacies typically had a soda fountain, and in 1898, Caleb concocted a carbonated beverage that was a combination of cola nut, sugar, vanilla, and other flavorings. Brad's drink, as it was called, was initially considered as an aid for digestion, in a similar way as the pepsin enzyme. Thus, Caleb changed the name of his drink to Pepsi Cola, and in 1903, the name was trademarked. By that same year, the business had outgrown the cellar of the pharmacy, and thus the company moved to the larger Bishop's Factory. Franchises owned by independent investors allowed the company to quickly expand. By 1907, Pepsi-Cola had grown to 40 franchises. For nearly 20 years, Pepsi-Cola continued to grow, but eventually went bankrupt due to a collapse of sugar prices. By 1921, Pepsi-Cola lay in ruin. Only 2 franchises remained. The company passed through several hands, but soon became one of the most recognized brands in the world. Caleb Braddon returned to his pharmacy and remained a figure in New Bern life. He died in 1934, his place in history secure as the founder of a company that operates in 61 countries today.
If my wife lived here in 20 years, she would be pleased. Right now, she's a little bit unhappy that we don't have enough shopping for her, and I keep telling her, be patient, it's coming, it's coming. So in 20 years, she should live and be well. She will have a lot of places to shop in New Bern.